Welcome back, guys. I know it is getting a little complicated, and now we are almost done with this application. And the last step, I'm going to implement a timer to this application. At the same time, I'm going to have a button over here that will allow us to play this game again. So, first of all, let me have that button below of this text view. So, button with the wrap content with a wrap content height and an ID of play again btn, and let me put below of ID below of this answer status text view with the gravity. Let me set to center and parent true, and at the same time let me set the margin top 5 dp, and text will be colors play again with the text color, and I'm going to use the background color with the background of Android color white. Let me set the padding to 10 dp around it, and at the start this button would be disabled, so let me set the enable to false. Okay, we are done with our play again button. Now I'm going to main activity, do the coding for this text view. But before that, let me get this text view inside our Java file, so that every time we click one of these four text views, our score text view gets updated. Score view, and at the same time I'm going to get the timer text view. Let me get both of these text view connected with the XML text views. Score TV would be equal to find view by ID or dot ID score TV, and at the same time timer TV would be equal to find view by ID or dot ID timer TV. Now I'm going to use countdown timer inside a separate method, that every time timer starts we perform generate question coding and do the math coding. So let me first create that method. It would be private void start timer. Okay, now first of all let me surround this code with try catch. I'm going to use the generic exception, and here it would be exception inside start timer. Let me get it e dot get mess. Okay, now first of all I'm going to create the constructor of countdown timer class. New countdown timer. Here I'm going to implement the two method of this countdown timer constructor. First one would be the on tick. This method runs every time our countdown timer runs, and this method is very self-explanatory. That is on finish, it runs every time timer gets finished. Okay, in the first parenthesis, the first parameter, you have to pass the total number of time that you want your countdown timer to run for. So I'm going to say 30 seconds. For that purpose I'm going to use 30,000 milliseconds. I'm going to pass it over here, and I want my counter to tick, to run this on tick method every second. For that purpose let me have 1000 milliseconds. Now I'm going to create a state variable of boolean type that will allow us to check that if our timer is still running, then we will allow user to call this do the math method. Otherwise we would say that it can't be called this do the math method. So first of all let me create that variable. It would be of type boolean. Let me call it state of timer, and at the start this would be true. First of all let me check over here, if state of timer equals true, then it will run this code over here. Otherwise it would not allow to run this code. And at the same time I'm going to put that over here as well. If state of timer equals true, then it will allow this code to run. Else, it will set this status text view to times up. Now, inside this start timer, I'm going to check that if our timer is still running or not. So, if it is running, let me check if milliseconds, which is this variable, which represents the number of milliseconds remaining, or less than equal to 0, then our timer state of timer would be false, else state of timer would be equal to true. I think you might be getting the point. Okay, and at the finish we want our state of the timer to false as well. So I'm going to set state of timer will be equal to false when our countdown timer will finish its ticking. So at the end, let me start this. Okay, now every time our this method do the math has been called, we have to update the this score text view as well. For that purpose, let me set the text of score tv dot set text would be equal to integer dot toString, and here let me say that our score plus, let me put the slash plus integer dot toString total number of questions, and here inside our onTick method I'm going to update our timer. That would be like this: timer tv dot set text, and as it is long, so I have to convert this long to toString, and what we want to convert milliseconds remaining over 1000. At the same time, let me put the s as well with it, and here inside the onTick I'm going to set the text to 0 second, 0 seconds. That's it. Now let's get back to logic of this play button. Every time this counter finishes to 0, we have to enable this button as well. So first of all, let me get this button inside my main activity Java class. Button play again btn. Now I'm going to connect this button with our XML button by using the find view by math IT method, and here it would be play again btn, and at the finish of this timer I would set this button to true. Play again btn dot set enable would be equal to true, and let me create another method where I'm going to set the values for the timer and all other to 0. Okay, public void set again, or let me say play again. Let me pass the view object. Here I'm going to surround it with try catch block as well. I know it is very annoying to have try catch block again and again, but believe me, it would be very helpful throughout our code. Okay, so here I'm going to set our score to 0, total number of questions to 0, answer status dot tv set text to 0/0, and next we would be setting this value again back to 3000. So here I'm going to start this again by setting the value to true. So I'm going to call this method start timer again. Okay, so we are almost done with our logic. I'm going to call this play again on the on click of our button, and here let me set start the timer method. Let me call this into our on create method as well, so that in the start of this application it start running. Let me have the final look on our code, then we will run this application.